Hello, and welcome to the Flying Meerkat Manor from Big Bear. Today we're talking about cookies. Today I've got super low energy because I always like to make these movies right at the time of day when I have no desire to speak to anyone whatsoever. Are you covering the audio with your hand there, maybe? I'm not sure, but hopefully you guys can hear me. So in here I've got sugar, and this is just brown sugar, equal parts of brown sugar and coconut sugar. And I've also mixed in here some of the Ghirardelli cocoa into the sugar, about 2 tablespoons of that. It's a cup and a half of sugar that I used in total, about 3/4 cup of brown sugar and half a cup of regular sugar. Well, my coconut palm sugar. You guys can use regular sugar. So just really quickly, we're at high altitude. This is about 8,000 feet. So air pressure, the lower air pressure up here causes 2 things to happen. There's less moisture. It causes moisture to evaporate quicker. It causes leavening to happen faster. So that means that the rising is going to happen faster. I'm going to talk about that more. You have to reduce the sugar at higher altitudes because it concentrates, and you need to add a little bit more flour, or just like a 1/4 cup at higher. The thing with the leavening is that the baking powder, and you need to reduce that to, if it's a teaspoon at low altitudes, you need to go to like a 1/4 teaspoon for these. So anyway, more fat is flavor. Fat is always flavor, and more fat at high altitude is always better for cookies because that's going to help the cell walls and the air pressure from bursting. If you put too much baking soda in high altitude cookies, it's going to be crumbly, it's going to be coarse and grainy, and they're going to rise and go out of control because those cell membrane walls are going to explode. If you have more fat, that's able to tie those in. So anyway, we've got melted butter. Important things about all cookies are having the room temperature butter, the butter and the eggs to room temperature. A quick way to get eggs to room temperature: just get a little warm water and dunk them in there for a minute or 30 seconds and pull them out. You don't want to cook them, but just warm them up. Same thing with your butter. Just Chef Mike can zap them up, or just anyway. So then the most important part about cookies is creaming the butter and the sugar. So we're gonna get the butter and the sugar. I use 2 forks because that's just all I have. It's probably gonna be a bunch of shadows, but you can use an electric mixer, blender, or you can just go like this and just get it in there. But the creaming is the most important part because that's going to fuse together the fat and the sugar molecules. And I actually added a little bit of, this is unsalted butter I'm using, but, and mixing this and creaming this process, you can go to 10 minutes doing this. 10 minutes of creaming it is what Christina Tosi does, who does the creamery, the famous one I'm forgetting, that everyone's going to make fun of me forgetting, in Vegas. She does the ice cream milk cookies, etc. So she does a 10-minute creaming process for her cookies. And at high altitude, I recommend the more creaming, and this is creaming with just the butter and the sugar. I'm going to add more butter in here actually now. I recommend a full 2 sticks of butter. We're going to get back to that. 2 sticks of butter, 8 ounces of butter into this 1.5 cups of sugar. But like I said, high altitude, 1.5 cups of sugar. At high altitude, you want to do a cup of sugar. So for 1.5 cups at lowland. So anyway, in here we've got flour, 2.5 cups of flour. You can use organic coconut flour. Just 1 second. You can also use almond flour. That's really good stuff. So anyway, and then I put a bit more of this Ghirardelli cocoa into the flour. And salting your flour is so important because that's going to cause that chemical reaction to unlock and unleash. So we're going to get back to that. in a second. Oh, and actually, I have some granola here. that I made. So this is brown sugar butter to bind the granola, but then I crushed it up. So this is walnuts, pecans, etc. Raisins. It's just like an organic mix of just granola. There's some dried fruit in there that you can see. There's some cashews, all sorts of stuff coming out. I'm just gonna put that in there. It's already pretty fine, mixed, good consistency. So anyway, we're gonna pause real quick and get back to that. Oh, we're filming? Oh, okay, great. Now we gotta. Oh, you serious? But it's live, so that means that. Hi. Welcome. It's coffee at 9:45 at night. So, we have room temperature eggs, and if you see in here, like, hey, I see that you've got your creamed butter and sugar and such, but what are these little white things going on here? Ryan, what are you trying to pull up there? Well, we got a little extra always going on, but this is just coconut oil, coconut fat. So, I mean, this is just some Butcher Boy coconut oil. First night cameraman, guys, sorry. Yeah, we got Gavin on the camera tonight, so, you know, he's learning, but... So we've got some coconut oil. That fat, like I said, is going to help with the cell membranes from bursting and the leavening process from reducing. A big part that I forgot to mention about is temperature control at high altitude. So what I'm going to do is turn up, you're going to do an increase in temperature, a 25-degree increase in temperature. I know I'm cracking this egg like a weirdo. But so the higher the temperature, that means that the faster it's going to cook, and you're going to cut down that chemical reaction of the leavening and the rising. So the higher temperature that you have, just a 25-degree increase, that's going to cut your cooking time down by a little bit, and that's going to allow less rising and stuff at higher altitudes. So I thought I was just going to make this about cookies, but I turned it into like high altitude cookies, I guess. So, but I told you, you're just getting the point. You're learning some things. We're all learning. It's how you eat an elephant. One bite at a time. Unless you're, see, I can't even, see, it's getting late in the night, and this is when my filter comes off, and I'm liable to, like, get banned from YouTube, so I'll just, okay, anyway, no, don't eat elephants. That's bad. Alright, so that's one egg in there, and then another egg, and at this time, oh, and the reason why I'm adding 2 eggs, I seriously can't even crack an egg because my brain damage sometimes, my finger function, loses against the mighty egg. So anyway, we're going to go 2 eggs because that's more liquid and more protein in the batter, which is going to do what, Ryan? It's going to do something pretty cool. Oh, it's going to coagulate and stop those cells from coalescing into large irregular pockets inside the batter. So that's always fun, because no one likes coalescing large irregular packets. No one likes the packets to be irregular, coalescing and such. Okay, so you're just doing a... Ooh, look at that. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So now we've got a good batter in here. And if you see, we got the granola in here, and then we're going to do half the batter in at a time. But I've got a small bowl, and I just dropped my fork in here. So what should I do? This sucks. So unfortunately, no, okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I put a little bit of oil on my hands, so I'm just going to go small increments of the flour into the bowl, and then we're just going to work it in from there. Slowly, if you have a blender, so you don't blast dust all over the place like a crime scene. So we're going, mixing, scooping from the side so you're not splashing flour on the floor like I just was, incorporating, and then they're going to have this nice batter. Reason why this is doing this, because you had the room temperature butter and the room temperature egg. So that's going to allow that to do its thing really fast. Okay, so now that's basically folded in and incorporated. At this point, I'm going to take in a little bit of this Watkins Pure Coffee Extract. This is in lieu of vanilla. Okay, So this is in lieu of vanilla, and just a little bit goes a long way. That's already like way more than I wanted, but whatever. Gonna be a little more coffee. So anyway, now we've got that in there. Now we're gonna finish with the rest of. Actually, since the bowl accordingly, we're gonna go like this. This will pop out real easily. I don't have a spatula, so you guys get the point. I'll come back to this in a second. And so then, now that we've got half the batches, that's just the most important thing that I just wanted to really quickly talk about is just half batches of the flour. So you can fold it in easily, and you're not sit there stuck folding in batter and trying to get flour to meld. And your flavors are gonna blend really well when you have your powder with the baking soda or the baking powder and the salt mixed into the flour at the beginning, like I mentioned. That's going to allow that chemical reaction of the salt and the flour to start firing off on that molecular level and such. So that's fun. Everyone loves molecules, and if you don't, then you're probably communist. Sorry, there are no Chinese viewers, huh? And if you are viewing from China, then you're probably not even a communist, and you're just like trapped in a sad world. But welcome to Food is My Weapon, Chinese viewers. Please keep hacking your government's corrupt, censored internet and coming to my page, because that's awesome. All about freedom of speech. Here in actually autistic chef's Aspie world. Cool. All right, so cool. Batter's in. We're done. I'm just gonna get this mixed up, and now we're gonna start forming dough balls to pop into the oven. Sounds good, huh, Chipper? Yeah. So I'm just gonna pour a little bit of moo juice. So in Big Bear we have these types of bears where they give off this awesome brown milk. It's the Southern Californian domesticated caramel bear that makes these little brown milks. So we're just going to put that in the dough. It just adds moisture. See the little dough and this little moat, it's just going around. That's awesome, right? So, yeah, so we're just taking this bear milk. And you cannot import or export this, by the way. So it's just much like the Embargo Trade Act on the Cuban cigars and Persian rugs, Pakistani rugs, Bangladesh, etc. You get the point. So this is exclusively brought to you by one of our farmers over Pharma. Prescription produce type partners that we work with up here locally, source Big Bear moo juice, so that's cool. Okay, so anyway, just add a little bit of moisture, a little bit of fat, a little bit of protein, and then so what does help, see I've got my hands all doughy. What you can do actually is just eat this off of your fingers and then it's gone. Or before you start doing this, just a little bit of water, on your hands, or you can put a little bit of, but so that's just gonna, a little bit of water, is gonna help keep your hands from sticking like this. So, but we just have our little spoon, and we're just gonna I'm just gonna show you one, and we're just gonna take a little ball like this. You want it to loose, and an important thing is not to overpack your dough. I didn't do that, I just had this in this ball, and you're just gonna have a loose ball, and then oiled pan, and you're just gonna drop it on there just like that, and that's it. And just repeat the process, and then you've got some cool cookies. It doesn't even matter if they're like not shaped the same either. You can have them like misshapen like that, just drop cookies, or you can take them and you can flatten them out and have that type of cookie too. You can see the nuts and the granola and the fruit are actually ended up in this one, so that's pretty cool. And then I also, my hands are ridiculous, so I'm not going to do this right now, but put a little bit of coconut, toasted coconut. I just keep that in a jar, and then I can just pop some of that and change them up. With the coconut palm sugar, just add that. It tastes like churros. So anyway, we're going to throw these in the oven and hope that they don't turn into hockey pucks like the first few times I tried making high altitude cookies. So we'll be back for a cookie. Thank you. So that's what they look like. So they got some squish. You can see that. Pulls. You can see that gooiness, that moisture still in there. So what's important to note is that I have this fresh off the pan into this metal container, and this is going to keep that airtight when I put the lid on here. So that's going to keep the moisture in these cookies, and that's going to keep them moist like they are now. I just broke this one up, but no, there's a lot of goo still in there. And there's not even chocolate chips in these. See how gooey that is? Yeah, these are awesome cookies. That coconut palm sugar. Anyway, much better than keeping them in a bag. So just put that lid on there, and also you can keep your bread products in something like this, or something super fancy like that. Upgrade bread. How cool is this thing? Right? Awesome. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you soon on the next episode. Food is my weapon. Gavin? Yeah, the cookies? Yeah. Good. Good.
Chef Ryan Willis.
What's up, Chipper?
Food is my weapon.